Hello everybody, welcome to the stream. Hope everyone's doing well today. Happy Saturday. Gunhui, hello. Erlin, hello. See everyone. Flova, hello. Yeah, good going. Where's the beer? The beer's right here. Tried using the brush and it took a lot of getting used to. Oh yeah, definitely. It is for sure something that you just have to like use. That's one of the reasons that I end up sort of spinning or flipping the canvas a lot, just so, because obviously, I'm sure everyone gets this, like, some strokes feel a lot more natural in one direction than the other, so a lot of the time, yeah, I'll flip the canvas or rotate it around. In the same way that you would like rotate paper, right? If you're drawing with graphite or something, or even a brush, you rotate the paper to like make it easier for yourself, or to get a certain smudge in a certain direction. I definitely think there are benefits to it, like being able to just do an easy gradient like that without having to blend. It is pretty handy. But I mean, that's like any technique, right? Or any tool. Like, if it's not handy for you, then don't use it. Use something else. Like, I'm not saying, oh, this is strictly better. Certainly.
Mila, don't jump on top of the dog. She's totally gone. Come on. Leave it. Cloak.
Ethan Walker, hello. Good to have you. Am I more confident working with lines or starting from shapes? It depends on what I'm doing. Sometimes, so at the moment, yeah, I'm like trying to get... I wasn't quite happy with where the shapes were going, so I'm sort of playing around with this line-wise. El Monroe, hello. Soviet, hello. Yeah, I mean, with this, I'm probably gonna get back to just like working in shapes pretty quickly, but I wanted to get at least some of this down first. No, I'm not really using any reference. I had some I was looking at some Gundam stuff earlier, but nothing specific. Painter XP, hello. This is actually Yonzi and Alex, not Sigur Rós, but it's the lead singer, one of his side projects. This is actually, I saw a picture the other day of a specific Gundam. Shit, I didn't watch much Gundam, so. This guy. I actually have a, I think I may even have this kit. But I really love the blue and orange. Yeah, so something along those lines. Maybe a little more blue, maybe a little less orange, but yeah. So yeah, most of the time it works out a lot like that. Like I'll have seen something recently that I thought was just like a nice color scheme and I'll steal it. Won't necessarily, like this is very specific, like this is a little more obvious than I would do. Like it's a mech and exactly the same thing. Like a lot of, especially with my mechs, like I'll see something that really has nothing to do with it, but I'll be like, oh hey, that could be a cool cool color scheme for something. Intrepid Eagle, hello, Flova. York, hello. You're always drawing single subjects on a blank background. Any tips on making it more dynamic? I mean, starting off with some sort of ground plane can help. Honestly, like, even if you're just working on it, like, here we go. I'm doing this guy. This is sort of semi-dynamic, and I've got... I didn't start with the... when I started off, I basically drew the guy first and then like added the ground plane in afterwards, but even just having a bit of that there like grounds it and makes it feel a little bit more believable. Honestly, I mean, part of that is if you're having, you don't really need a background necessarily to make something feel dynamic. Like I've seen lots of character illustrations and stuff that are like super dynamic that are just still just a character on a blank page. I think I can paste it in chat. I should actually make a proper playlist. There's the thing. I could make it like a little bit more curated, because Spotify is odd. In that I feel like playlists are all. I listen to music a lot, as long as I'm not watching something on Twitch. And so I always find it awkward when a playlist is like, oh, here's like 20 songs. And then, because I like just finding a collection of stuff that I sort of like, and then listening to that for like all day, basically. So currently this just has like a bunch of albums that I like that are a little bit in a similar theme. Whereas a lot of people curate it down to like, here's one song off a bunch of albums that I like. And I might end up doing something more like that, depending on what people like, but for my own listening, because it just gets boring. Like, it's nice to listen to a playlist like that once, but then the next time around you're like, oh, well, I want to listen to that playlist, but I want to listen to songs because I liked all of those artists, but I'm sure they have other good songs, right? I don't know. I always liked Last FM for that reason. I tried to use it again a little bit more recently, and I feel like it's not as straightforward, or like they changed some stuff up, and it's not as easy to use as it used to be. But yeah, because that would just be like hit, because you basically, I've been uploading like keeping track of every song that I've played almost in the last like 10 years. And so it knows what music I like, and then it's like, hey, we have these recommendations for you. And I know Spotify does that a little bit, but it was easy just to play that radio and get a bunch of new stuff. Right. Some weird stuff going on here. Yeah, I do a similar thing. I just like, yeah, add it to my playlist. It's funny though, because I have a huge iTunes playlist, right? Like I have a lot of music, but now I don't have a super convenient way of getting to it at work. I mean, I guess iTunes has like a shared thing. I could probably just do that, but I've started like, oh, I had this band and I really liked them, so now I'll add them back to my Spotify playlist so I can like listen to them again. And then it'll be a band with like 8 albums, and suddenly, because I don't have a huge Spotify playlist, like every second song is like from one album or from one artist. It's like I almost have to go through and like re-find all the music I like listening to. So I'm like getting too far into like rendering this already, or not. I'm like rendering little bits of it nicely, and then not actually working out what the frig is going on. Yeah, I spend... Oh, I didn't save it. Hi, Smeeky. Welcome to the stream. Do I have different brushes set to hotkeys? No. Honestly, I basically am always using this brush, which is the like half soft, half hard brush. If I change, I just use the default hotkeys to go back and forth, and I've made sure that the brushes I use mostly are nearby in my brush library. Serious, hello. MMA fighter grandmaster, hello. Smeeky missed the answer. No, I mostly use the same brush for pretty much everything, and I don't have any fancy hotkeys set up to swap between, really. It's just the default stuff. Yeah, pretty much. I swap the sizes a lot. And I'll occasionally swap to the smudge tool. But yeah, that's generally it. Not sure if I'm happy with that head yet, but let's try and work out some of these other bits. Smudge is easier for actually blending, rather than taking the time to sort of render. Like, I can do what it would take me like quite a few brush strokes to sort of smooth this out and render this out. Like some areas, some bigger areas, I would use a brush, but like here, I'm like, oh, okay, that's that, and I can smudge and just blend it in. It's just more efficient. Oh, don't apologize for the questions. No, that's why I'm doing this. If I didn't want to answer questions, I would sit at home, just paint this stuff on my own, and then just put it out there. Like, what is going on here? Sarcastic Otter, hello. Jill. Hey. You played around with the brush and found that the hard side changes according to the direction. Yeah, it's just so that I don't have to like, yeah, so that I can basically control whether I want to do a hard circle or a soft circle. yeah, it definitely takes some getting used to, but I feel like it's worth it in the end. Though I have noticed I have to be careful, or the stuff that I do can end up a little like squidgier, like or softer, and I need to watch out for that. It's a little bit like if I'm not careful, things can end up a little more like, for the same reason that say you're encouraged to use like the hard round brush when you're sort of starting out rather than working in the digitally rather than a soft round, so that you learn to have better control over your edges and not let things get too muddy or too sort of blurry. There is definitely a danger with this brush as well, that things can get just a little soft. What canvas size do I usually paint on? What am I doing? Yeah. This is pretty standard for just misc painting, either at work or otherwise. But no, there's certainly no standard. It all depends on what you're trying to work on, like what your final result needs to be. Like this level is high enough res to get a decent amount of detail in without feeling the need to like go in there and overdo it. Also, it's small enough that my computer can handle it nicely while streaming. And is big enough to blow up if people want to like use it for something, but doesn't need to be like poster sized, and is big enough to fit some nice details in it that will shrink down. I mean, so there's it's a similar principle, like working, not that I've done it for a long time, but working for print illustration. Working for print illustration, you, like in traditional, you would normally work about twice as big as your final size. So say you're doing an illustration for a book and it needs to be like 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters. You would work at 20 by 20, and then in print they would, or in layout, they would shrink it down and the details would like crunch down, and it would look a little nicer at that size. So for the same reason, I paint, even though it's only going to go up on the web, I paint at least like twice as big as the final res will be, just so that it looks a little tighter when it's shrunk down. As for 72 or 300 dpi, that makes literally zero difference unless you are printing it out. That makes absolutely no difference at all. So it's always pixel size that matters. I mean, it's not a bad idea to have an idea of what, because 300 dpi is what you want for anything that you're gonna print. So it's always a good idea to, like, if you know you're doing something towards that, have an idea of at least how big, say, an A4 letter page is at 300 dpi. So if you're working on you know it's at least big enough to look decent if it was printed out at a standard page size. But aside from that, honestly, these days, because in Photoshop, as long as you turn off this, you can look at inches, and this could be 300. So yeah, at 300 dpi, this is 12 by 8. At 72 dpi, this is 53 inches. At 150, which is decent poster res to look at from a wall, it's 25 inches wide. So that's a decent size to put something up. And as long as you don't hit resample, original size. So this is, yeah, So this is 300. So all of those sizes are 380, 3,800 pixels wide, and it just like changes that. Makes literally no difference for digital art. Do I usually start... Deathly Divine, hello. Do I usually start with line works to get shapes going, or do I start silhouettes in solid shapes? It depends. So this time around, I tried starting with a solid shape, and then I got some line work going in that I then sort of painted over. That I am not haven't been super happy with how some bits of it are going, so I'm like adjusting it as I go. Vermilion 777. Do I always work in color to begin with? Most of the time, especially for a piece like this. Yeah, my like first very rough line work is usually in black, but once I get past that, I always like working in color. Even if it's gonna be adjusted later, it feels a little nicer to be working it out that way. And yeah, like the rough in the initial, certainly on this piece, it was over proportions because I'm screwing up all the details are like completely changing from what the rough was. Peter Draws stream ended. Hosting. Thank you very much. Hello. A lot of preferences, a lot of questions end up being personal preference, especially with digital. I mean, I would guess that a lot of that is just as true for traditional. I guess the technical side wouldn't be, like these days, or certainly like illustration-wise, or there are a lot more technical issues that you have to consider when you're working for print media, certainly, that have like, this is how it needs to be done to look good. But yeah, digitally speaking, it's like, as long as your final result ends up being a JPEG at roughly screen res, you're set. The main issue having a piece like this, where all the detail is off to the side, is when I flip it, I keep having to like completely jump to the other side of the canvas. It's both a relief and scary when the answer is just practice. It means there's no magic tool. So on the one hand, it's a relief to know that the pros aren't all just keeping this secret magic thing hidden away from you. I want to ask a smart question that gives me a good idea to make me a better artist. Yeah, I feel like that whenever I go to like an art demo or something. I'm like, I feel like I shouldn't. There should be intelligent things I could ask that would get me more out of this. But a lot of it is just, yeah, just keep doing it. You gotta just practice more. Like that I'm not precious about my design elements. Yeah, I think that's a little bit partly because I'm not super happy with any of the design elements at the moment. So I'm more inclined to just be like, yep, cut it out, it's fine. But I think that that is definitely an important thing to be like, to be able to do, for sure. It's funny, yeah, because the head was the piece that was like, yep, I'd spent a lot of time like actually putting some detail in there. This is, the pose is weird here. Let's try. Can I use my influence to get the artist stage on the virtual ticket this year? It's something I've been asking for quite a while. I'm not sure if we're doing it again. I mean, we are doing the artist stage again. I'm not sure if it will be this time. Maybe. I will bring it up again next time. Next time we have a discussion about that, or next time I have to speak to Bob or Jeremy about it. Must have had a lot of fun painting the mechanical. Wait, what? You mean Rexar skin? A little bit, but that friggin' marine suit, man. Yeah, that I've drawn that marine suit so many times. It was actually sort of nice not to have to do the entire thing. You may have noticed that he was not at the front of that piece. Partly because he was the main guy in the most recent arena, or not, I guess the most recent big illustration for Heroes as well was the one I did for BlizzCon last year, which was our arenas piece, which also had Rexar front and center. It just happened that we were doing a skin for him this time around. So I didn't want to, he had to be there, but I didn't necessarily want him to be like the main guy. But yeah, it's always fun. Like that, I think the crossover skins are my favorite. Probably that's like the most fun thing about Heroes to me is like the clash of all of the worlds in together. So yeah, working on those is always a massive, it's always a fun thing. Terran Protoss or Zeg? It's gotta be Zeg.
Yes, this song is from Bastion.
charcoal as tomorrow is. She went to that California trip. The moon was gold and her hair like wind. Said, don't look back, just come on, Jim. Oh, you got to hold on.
Will I ever do a
You gotta hold
Will I ever do a 100% tutorial teaching how to do something? Maybe. I mean, it's sort of hot. Like, I've got a few up on my DeviantArt page that are like more specific tutorials. Like I had a quick masking thing. Things that I'm not sure that people actually know about. But I don't know. Like, are there specific things that people want to know how to do? Like, I feel like I don't do anything specifically differently to anyone else. So I'm not sure what. I mean, it might not be a bad idea just to like work out, because a lot of the things I do I don't necessarily think about when I'm doing. I just sort of do. Maybe.
God bless your crooked little heart. St. Louis got the best of me. I miss your broken china voice. How I wish you were still here with me.
Yeah, like edge control. It's like, I don't know. I mean, I understand it to some degree, but that's totally something that I do just sort of without thinking about. And I don't really know how I would do a, like, how to get better at edge control, like, tutorial. Like, I basically just sort of I mean, maybe that would be a better thing. Like, I mean, that could be something that I did on a stream. Like, I don't... Like, what I'm doing here is not that different to the way I do work. Like, I do anything at work. Or, like, I would do a Hearthstone piece. Like, I get into it more quickly. And obviously, over the course of a 2-hour stream or whatever, I'm not going to end up being quite as polished as that. Yeah, I know. But I don't necessarily approach them any differently. I mean, I've got some like process versions of some of the older TCG illustrations that I did, and basically that's still how I do my like anything. I guess something like the I mean, I don't do any matte painting, so I'm not going to do a tutorial on that. I mean, I can just talk about that sort of thing. I can try and talk about that sort of thing a little more while I'm streaming. Like edge light, rim light colors, and that sort of thing. Since I'm doing it right now. I mean, I am sort of trying to work it out as I go along as well. There are a few things that I'm keeping. I mean, it probably would behoove me to talk a little bit more during my stream and not just like sit here and hope that you're keeping up with me. So I can do some of that. So some of the things I've been thinking about here specifically have been trying to get the lighting direction right and trying to get the difference between this like pale white color of metal and the sort of mid, sort of like eggshell blue color because depending on where in the shadows they are, they can look pretty similar. And also, like, because I'm designing on the fly, I'm not necessarily sure how much of each I want on, like, where I want them in the design. So I'm sort of playing around with that as I go, which is a fun process to, like, it ties back into, there's something very satisfying in it that ties back to my, like, graphic design roots as to, like, how I lay out my colors and, like, hierarchy of, like, alright, the orange is the like the detailed bits that pop, and then the white is the next, like, poppy bits, and then the pale blue is sort of the main color, and then this dark blue is sort of still an accent, but it's not an accent that really, like, pops. It's an accent that sort of is a little darker, and so getting the balance of those can be an interesting thing. And it's the same thing. It really does feel like I'm trying to, like, it's basically a graphic design issue as to, like, the levels of the proportion of how much white to how much orange to how much dark blue I get going on. And then that becomes a compositional thing too, right? Like, I've got which is an interesting thing, I think, because designing a character for a painting like this, for a one-off painting, you get away with a lot more design choices on a character that are only made because of the specific pose and angle that you're seeing the character from. To actually end up with a nice illustration at the end, compared to if doing actual concept art of something that needs to be built and then seen from multiple angles. There's, like, some really interesting play there. Because what looks good composite? Because at the moment I'm noticing this, like, dark flow, this line here and this line here across the, like, codpiece bit is feeling a little odd, maybe. And that's totally something that you probably wouldn't notice if I was designing this in, like, just a T-pose sort of shape, or just, like, from a side-on or front-on angle. And then if I was to take this piece and then, like, stand him up, it might not even work at all. And then there would be, like, things like that I do, like, try and do. If you've got, like, a full mech piece, then you like to have some sort of, like, accent lines that echo all the way across the body, or, like, flow from, like, head to toe or whatever, that you would see in a front on or, like, 3/4 view shot that you're probably not actually going to see in a more dynamic pose. Do you like seeing the orange-blue complementary stuff? Yeah, I don't know what it is about it, but, like, I really love the Astray color scheme. I really love orange as just like a pop sort of, and I think it's a fairly common thing, especially in, like, modern sort of design. It's like a gray and then a pop of orange sort of color is a super common element. But, like, a rich orange like that as a highlight, or like an accent color, is really nice. I mean, I just like orange generally, So orange as a main color is great to me too, but yeah. And that is the other thing when designing for an illustration rather than an actual design. You're designing a limb in two different angles at once. So like this is gonna be like, all right, I need to take this knee piece and recreate it over here. And there's bits that I have to actually design now because you don't see them in the way the leg is set up on the other side, and I have to make sure that they don't conflict with how the initial leg design, the front leg, is designed. Cosmic Russell, Hearthstone cards look amazing. Thank you very much. I always have, yeah, I have a heap of fun working with those guys on that stuff. Yeah, I feel really lucky that I can actually still contribute to that stuff. And it's funny to see, like, for the Karazhan stuff, like, I knew the theme, but I don't actually get a description of what the cards do. Oh, I mean, I guess so. I did the Nightbane Templar. I did actually know what that one was going to be doing because I had the whelp image had already been painted, and so it was that was sent as part of my reference material. I was like, all right, this is the dragons that she's going to be summoning, so we want it to sort of feel like it goes together as a piece. So that was actually one of the few times that I have had a bit more knowledge of like what the hell the cards do. Like in the one before that, the Old Gods expansion, I had no idea what either of those cards did. I knew Volage was going to be a legendary. Like I knew what he was, but I didn't know it was a priest card, and I didn't know what the hell he would be doing. It is always fun to be doing a card that gets used a lot. So it is nice to see Elise get used pretty regularly. Yay! It's never fun to do something that's like that's totally meh. And that's partly because I play the game as well. I want to be able to use the cards that I've illustrated, not just because I illustrated them, but hopefully they're also decent. How do I decide what color my highlighted parts will be? I don't have a great like rule set for thinking about that. It's best to it depends on what material your thing is. I feel it most often is best to think about what the mid-tone color is, and then what do you do? For a start, using midway to black isn't necessarily the best way to get shadows, because I really like having more saturation in the shadows. Otherwise, things get muddy and things get sort of dull looking. And so what I find you can do, so I always have my color sliders over here set up in HSB. And what you can do if you're setting up your shadow colors, like if I was like, oh, okay, this blue needs to be a shadow, so I can darken it down, but then I can also like increase this the saturation of it, so it doesn't go towards black too much. It gets a little nicer. It doesn't just sort of gray out too much, you can do the same thing. So like that, say that for example, like if I just make this light, it gets sort of paler. But if I put some saturation back into it, it like adds the richness back into it, so it feels more like that's like what color that piece is supposed to be. Don't apologize for asking questions. Totally. That, like I said earlier, that is like why partly I'm doing this stream. Like I want to be able to interact and sort of like, yeah, explain stuff. Not just be like, here, sit there in silence and watch me paint. Because I know from like, yeah, it's always cool to be able to ask people what they're doing, what the thought processes are behind certain things. How did it do that magic on the sword? I did actually swap to a different brush for that. So I set up a new layer. I created a new layer, and I started with a brush that doesn't actually have any opacity on it. So I can just set up a thing, and then I played around with turning on the lock transparency, which lets me just do like add gradients to a specific part, which is one of the reasons that I set it up on a new layer to begin with. If you're going for strong highlights, I often find it's nice, especially for like edge lights, to go a little bit lighter than you think you should. For areas like this, and you can get some really nice like gradients. It's not, yeah, there are totally things that you do like when painting that are just not physically, yeah, that don't actually make sense. Like that's not how that works. But it's like overemphasizing like subsurface scattering. And it's the same with like room lighting and stuff. Like I know it's that's definitely something that you can overuse, but like still doing more than you would actually get in reality, without overdoing it, can still be like super convenient and really like pop stuff. Thorslow, hello. And things like emphasizing bounced light can be a really nice thing. Especially if you're using like rich colors. So how do I approach the huge pieces like that? So, I mean, initially there's a bunch of, like, sketches that get done. A lot of the time I feel like I don't quite do enough sketches to begin with on those, but yeah, I do some thumbnails and try and work out something. I end up like doing for that sort of thing. I do fairly tight line work. Alright, I'm gonna take a break briefly because it's been like an hour and a half. I should be back shortly. Listen to some sweet music. And I shall continue explaining big pieces like that when I get back. Hello, I am back. Alright. Getting going. Yeah. So, big pieces of art. I mean, honestly, it's not too different to how I approach any other, like, a smaller piece. It just sort of, I do it break it down into chunks. Every character gets their own, like, little layer, and I work on them one at a time. Honestly, it's something I try and work on, as I go, like, getting better at, planning these things out, because pieces like that I usually end up working on for, like, a month or so, so I really have to make sure that I'm happy with the composition, and how that's working out, because once I'm, like, 2 weeks in, I really don't have the time to go back and change major things. Bulletproof hello. So that's sort of a, but yeah, like physically doing it is basically just doing it bit by bit. Like it's everybody. I try and get at least like a value pass for everyone, so that I can see what it looks like overall, and then I sort of do a rough color block in. That's something I've been doing a little more recently, and I didn't do as much initially. Yeah, so working on a painting for a month full time. It's, as long as I'm happy with how I set up my composition, it goes pretty smoothly. Otherwise it can be, I can like get a little frustrated with some pieces, but I mean it's the same as anything. Like because it's not like I'm working on a month on one big painting of one character. I think that sort of makes it a little easier, because it's like, okay, so say the arenas piece that I did last year. It's like, alright, I'm working on Rek'Sai, I'm working on Lunar, I'm working on Greymane, and they have all these different characters that have like different requirements and whatever, and so that breaks up the monotony. It's to some degree a little bit like working on a different illustration when I get into that. I'm not sure how much of that you can see on the stream. That was pretty good.
Really couldn't help but just watch. That was like slow motion cartoon.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Anyway. How do I go about choosing my color palettes? Especially if I'm not sure what I'm gonna draw. Honestly, actually, choosing color palettes when I'm not sure what to draw is easier. And a lot of the time, if I'm not sure, I'll start off with some color. Oh, good. A lot of the time, I'll start off with a color palette and then sort of turn that into something, rather than the other way around. Which I can find fun, but a lot of the time, like I said earlier on this piece, I can sometimes will just have seen, like, we'll just have seen like a photo or something that looks nice. And I try and apply that to something that's completely different subject-wise, but looks similar enough when it gets down to sort of, that uses the same color palette. I guess that's why it says stir. And what you might have said, random color generator. And honestly, like, if you don't have anything crazy in mind, that's not a bad idea. Or just like like set yourself a goal of like, go on Google and find a photo that has like an interesting color scheme, and then just use those colors, whether to do something completely different. Do I convert my planings to black and white to check values? I have my my proof color set up to black to grayscale, so I do that sometimes. Maybe not as much as I should. But yeah, I do definitely. And all that sort of thing is always necessary, no matter how pro you end up getting. Like you get a better innate feel for it as you get better, but it's always worth checking. And maybe you don't need to check it as often. But yeah, definitely. Webcomics, a comic called Ava's Demon. Oh, I have to check it out. I follow a few, but nothing too like long format. Not really any that are like actual stories. Except for maybe in the what's it called? The Ashes of Thunderport Mountain is amazing. I think it's called. Thunderport in the Ashes of Fire Mountain. That's what it's called. That is fantastic. Everybody should check this out for sure. It also uses a lot of orange, which is maybe one of the reasons I like it. Sir Pine, hello.
stars will come out when I go. All stars will glow bright, and my friends will give up the fight. They'll see my work in a different light. Yeah, when I go, they'll try telephoning my mother, but they'll end up getting my brother, who'll spill a story of some long-gone lover that I hardly know. Hats off to the man on top of the world. Come crawl up here, baby, and I'll show you how it works. If you wanna be my friend and you wanna repent and you want it all to end and you wanna know when, well, do it now, don't care how. Take your final bow, make a stand, take my hand and blow it all to hell. They're gonna inform the police chief, who'll breathe a sigh of relief. He'll say I'm a lander and a bad lander and a thief. Yeah, when I go,
To get back into a bit more about what I'm trying to get going on here, I have realized that my background was not very well thought out at all. I mean, you want to get something a little bit nice in there before I call this done. So some sort of Rocky Mountain thing. What playlist am I listening to? I can post the playlist. Here's the playlist of stuff.
hats off to the man on top of the world. Come crawl up here, baby, and we can watch this damn thing turn. If you wanna be my friend and you wanna repent and you want it all to end and you wanna know when, well, do it now, take a long last bow, take my hand, make a stand, and blow it all to hell.
I'm not super happy with how, like, the weight feels here. Like, I don't mind the pose, but the connection between the robot and the cliff is going a little awkward. But I'm not sure it's something that I'm going to be able to just whip up the fix for. Yeah, so doing some adjustment of the angles here could probably help. I feel like this is working relatively well. It's always, I find it hard to get nice background sort of clouds going sometimes. Are there situations where I have to redo paintings from scratch at Blizzard? And is it annoying if that's the case? Very rarely is something have to be done from scratch. I mean, I guess to some degree things like get done but then get not used, or at least like maybe not done all the way but will get almost finished and then like canned, and so that can be frustrating. Though I haven't personally had that happen too much, and we try and be better about that, because obviously it's a waste of everyone's time. It's not just like, oh, we don't like doing it because it makes you feel bad. It's like they're super inefficient. But I mean, sometimes things need to get adjusted, and like it can be frustrating because most of the time, like even things get changed like later on in the process occasionally, and that can be frustrating because there are things that it's like, well, this you could have like brought, if you had an issue with this, it could have come up earlier. But I mean, that's always gonna happen. Like, I've been on the other end of that, giving feedback when things are almost done, and you don't like doing it, but at the end of the day, it's for the good of everybody. So as long as we, like, if it happens once, you take note of it and don't try and keep it to a minimum. Like, say like, right, this happened, this was bad, next time get your feedback in earlier or whatever. But I mean, that's just part of being like professional, I suppose, having to be able to deal with that sort of thing without, like, certainly without taking it personally. Alright, getting pretty close to done, I think. Who's my favorite Transformer? Is it sacrilege to say that I never really watched Transformers and I don't have a favorite? Alright, I think we're basically done now. Call it here. Alright. Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you everybody for coming out. Hope you enjoyed it. $2:25 a.m. Time to sleep. Perfect time to finish. All right. Yeah. Thanks very much for coming out, coming to watch. Did I? Oh, guess that was not in the home. Perfect. All right. Done. See you guys next time. Yeah. Hopefully next weekend. We'll try and get that. Yeah, regular time done. We'll let you know otherwise, but yeah. Sweet. Thank you very much. See you next week.